What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How is everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, January 24th of 2024 for episode 108? We have a problem. We have a major problem. For some reason, David is still here. He still keeps coming back to the show, and we have no idea why he continues to be a tumor. Hi, David.
You know, for some reason, I like blank out and I forget that we have intro music. So when it hits, it's like surprises me. That just happened this time. I'm just letting you know.
I mean, we've only done it 108 times,
Yeah,
not a big deal. Not a big deal. We've only been doing this for a little bit, but maybe one day you'll get with it one day.
Maybe one day.
Before we jump into the fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. Go over there. You'll see our new logo with all the lines and shit. You'll enjoy it. Anyway, last week's show, want to talk about it real quick. We had on John Delarose. We talked about all things going basically wrong in the comic book sphere and movies and things like that with Marvel and DC. And it was a great show, especially if you're a comic book nerd. Jump on there, go give it a listen. John's awesome. And go support his website, fandompulse.com, because it's another cool website. And maybe, Dave, I'll get on to writing about Drunk 3PO. I don't know.
You better.
I should. I shouldn't suck. I should go finish reading that. But anyway, this week, we have a fun episode coming for you. So every once in a while, you sit there and you watch TV. And if you're me, you're looking at it going, I want to try and get that person to come on our show. And then it happens, and it's pretty freaking cool because I'm excited to have this guest. He is Dave Landau. He is a comedian and the host of Normal World on YouTube and BlazeTV. What's going on, Dave?
How are you, sir? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing fantastic. We talked 2 seconds ago before the show and said I've been a fan of yours, been listening to you for a while, enjoy Normal World. You and Quarter Black Garrett are absolutely hilarious with the skits and the show itself. So we are pumped to have you on. So we're going to jump right into it. So you are a comedian. You do
Yes.
your thing. You're a stand-up comedian. You're around there. If anyone doesn't follow you on Instagram, the clips you put up on Instagram are really good, especially the ones lately with your interactions with the crowd and stuff. It's always great. So we want to talk to you first about the state of comedy, specifically with stand-up right now. There's a lot of things going on with stand-up, and I think for a while there, it was kind of like the wokeness was really feeding in, but it looks like it's kind of tipping back into the scales of potentially being comedy again, right? Making fun of everything and nothing off limits. You've been involved in comedy for a while. What are you seeing going on in the comedy world? Is it starting to come back to sanity?
Oh, I think it is. I mean, I think you've seen the rise of a lot of comedians who I don't think would have had much a few years ago and were canceled a few years ago. I think it's great, actually. I think there's a lot of different voices, a lot of different people doing it. It doesn't necessarily have to be all that style. Like, I just like that there's so many options. It's a lot like music right now. Like, yeah, there's a lot of garbage, but everything that's ever been created is available. And the only thing that I think that sucks about comedy right now is like the AI specials that are getting released of dead people and like well-revered people. I think that's just disturbing and wrong. But other than that, I mean, I think it's coming back. I mean, you have shows like Kill Tony selling out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I like that because 2 years ago they tried to destroy his career.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows that there's a resilience to it. I mean, I think people are just tired of being told what to think is funny, what to find appropriate. And I think it's on the rise again. I mean, I'd say it's almost an epidemic. So many people are doing it. But at the same time, there's probably never been so many good people doing it at once as there is right now.
Yeah, I actually just saw Andrew Schultz Saturday at Constitutional Hall. And he was saying things that, if you thought of DC in the way it is, like you would think they wouldn't like it as a crowd, but he was saying whatever he wanted and everyone loved it. So it's definitely seems like it's trending back in the right direction.
Yeah, you build your fans and then you sort of go out there, you do what you want to say. That's why he's well known. I mean, I've done shows with Andrew on podcasts and he's always had that voice and he works really hard to build up that persona. And that's what people come to see. And I think people are so worried about the corporate work environment, what other people think. And that's the problem is your whole life, you're not supposed to care what other people think. And the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's all come down to always watch what you say, worry about your thoughts, hide whatever view you might have. It's a very interesting time to be a comic, but I also don't. I think it's a great time to be a fan of it too.
Absolutely. So, curious with your opinion on this. Did the passing of Norm Macdonald and kind of the response and reaction from so many people, because Norm was known to be very savvy with the way he put things, but also like he can offend you and make you laugh at yourself at the same time. He was just amazing at that. But just coming out with a lot of things that he said, did it kind of make a lot of people take a step back and go, we really shouldn't give a shit? Norm didn't. And, look at his legacy. It's an amazing legacy. Everyone remembers Norm Macdonald fondly. Do you think that kind of gave like a shock to the system? Like, hey, we need to get back to what he was doing because it was working. Look at this response.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think Norm was one of a kind. He was definitely one of my top 5.
Oh, yeah.
And he was somebody who, when you go back and you watch Weekend Update and he's doing certain jokes, I was laughing so hard as a teenager. And, 11 or 12 when I started watching him on there, that you don't really realize how hard he's bombing on some of the jokes because they're just so offensive to the audience. But that was the whole point, was he kind of took out the whole twist of it and just said it. The whole, like the things he would say. I remember one joke was about Lisa Marie Presley divorcing Michael Jackson. And he said, Lisa Marie Presley wishes he was more of a homebody, and Michael Jackson wishes she was a 7-year-old boy. and then the crowd's groaning, and he goes, oh, have you not heard? He's a homosexual pedophile. So it's like there was no point in it where he didn't just call it what it was. And that's what was so beautiful about it, was he took out like the twist and everything around it. And that's what was so great about Norm into his later years and up until he, was dying of cancer and nobody knew. He just basically did his special and passed away because he didn't want that bullshit clapping for no reason because you're dying. He didn't want that. He just wanted people to laugh because it was funny. And I think that's the essence of not giving a shit. I mean, that's the essence of doing comedy for the sake of comedy. That's why he was so brilliant. And I think you're seeing more comics that want to do that. You have comics that want to be cringy or irreverent or edgy, but it's not necessarily their voice. You have comics that aren't like that necessarily, but you have like a Maria Bamford or somebody who might be a little softer, but they're brilliant and they're talking about dark topics. But nobody really did it like Norman. I think, I think he inspired a lot of people. I think that last special right before he passed away that he did into his computer inspired a lot of people. I mean, you get one life, you might as well try at it. Definitely. Especially as a comedian.
100%. So with you've been in conservative media for a while now too. Did that kind of help you as a comedian? Because obviously
no.
YouTube, like in a way of just being able to build that audience of people that are going to enjoy your style, right? Like
eventually a little, yeah. You mean after I was shunned by every mainstream outlet, it was great. It was the best choice I ever made for being a stand-up, was going into conservative media.
Just being well known as a bigot.
Just immediately. Yeah, there's nothing better you want to be than be called a racist and a homophobe because you sat next to Artie Lang and Anthony Cumia that no one would ever do. Yeah, it was the best. It's the best choice.
All right. Yeah. Prove me wrong in 2 seconds.
No. I mean, like now it does because it's great. I got to, when I got on radio, I sat next to like Artie Lang and Anthony Cumia. You can't get more trial by fire than that.
Yeah,
you're sitting by two legends, and you better be good, or else it's going to be a rough day. So it was definitely. I didn't really realize it was conservative media though at the time. I just thought it was comedy.
Yeah.
And it sort of became something. When I ended up going on Crowder's show, I knew it was conservative media, but I never watched the show.
Yeah.
So I mean, I watched like bits and pieces. I knew he did a lot of impressions. I liked his skits. But I knew he was conservative. I don't want to pretend I didn't, and that he was in that media sphere. And I had been doing Fox with my buddy Jimmy Fallon on his radio show in New York for years at that point, and I had done Red Eye, so I had never shied away from it. But absolutely
Red Eye.
Oh, dude, it was the best, wasn't it?
Red Eye was
I'm
good.
I'm really hoping that Jimmy's show is kind of that for Fox, and I really wanted that to be what my show was for the Blaze, and we're
Mhm.
working on getting it there.
It's good.
It
It's good.
was it was such a good show, man. And I don't blame Gutfeld. I mean, you're going to move somebody down and pay them a lot more money to be a legitimate
Absolutely.
anchor and not host a show called Red Eye. I get it.
They said whatever the fuck they wanted at 2 a.m. in the
Dude,
morning. They did not care at all.
no, you had like Gavin McGinnis sitting
Yeah.
next to Anthony Cumia. You had Bill Schultz, who was the right hand man.
Mhm.
You had Natasha. It was so good. It was perfect. By the time I did it, Tom Shalhoub was the host, and I liked Tom. And then he ended up doing on PC. But
Yep.
at the time, I think things were starting to turn by the time I did it.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to turn back because Jimmy's been sort of hidden on radio. And now they're putting him, he's the host of Fox Saturday Night. And I got to do the premiere episode. And that's a cool thing because they're kind of letting that irreverence back out. And dude, it hit #1 in the time slot across the country.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a hunger for it. And
Yep.
I don't even know if it's conservative. I just think it's because all of a sudden that's the places where you can go to watch comedy. I mean, it's just available there.
And it was such a different thing that Fox News at the time. It was very uppity. It was very Bill O'Reilly. It was Sean Hannity. It was such like a lineup of like hard politics. And then here comes Red Eye, and it's legitimate comedy. It's legitimate not caring and not even necessarily staying in politics, venturing into entertainment and pop culture. And Gutfeld is just a funny guy by nature. Like even when his jokes bomb, he just gives you that look and makes you laugh. Like he's just fantastic with his delivery.
As a host should do. He has self-awareness. And at that time you had, like I said, Opie and Anthony, you had Patrice O'Neill, you had you had Colin Quinn, you had Jim Norton, you
In
had
Jersey,
this
we had
lineup.
free beer and hot wings, which was very much an Opie and Anthony type of thing.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Oh, Opie,
But I mean,
free beer
like,
and hot wings was ridiculous.
sorry. Okay, so but I mean, these were actual guests on Red Eye. I mean, you had these people that were murderers in comedy, and that did go away for a while. And I think you're starting to see more and more of it. And part of that is people creating their own content and getting tired of, comedy and any sort of show business is just so filled with rejection where you have to play it off like you're smiling half the time when you're in it for 20 years, and half the time you're like, I don't know, do I kill myself or keep going, or do I, you just pretend like you're happy, but you're not. Yeah. And that's a large part of being a comic.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, who didn't like Robin Williams except him,
Yeah.
So you
actually.
sort of have, for real. And I'm obviously a fan. So it's show business is a depressing motherfucker. And when so many people are going at you now for what you say and for what your art is, I hate to use the word art. I mean, I use that term as loosely as possible for my stand-up, but for a lot of people, they consider it art. And for those people, it's got to be difficult when people do attack your words because there's so many things that get twisted. And we've lost, and this goes for a lot of people on the right too, and I say this being in conservative media, they have no sense of irony.
The Puritan right sucks. I'll come out and say, I do not like the Puritan right at all.
Yeah.
They don't get it. There's no irony. It's like they don't understand. Like, no, this is like tongue in cheek. This isn't. Do you understand like basic sarcasm, let alone irony, let alone this isn't real? Like that was a sketch we just shot, you lunatic. Like I'm not actually.
They don't like comedy that's a little edgy. They don't like boobs apparently with the calendar. They don't like they don't like anything like that could be like not like, super religious. Like they're just so like, and it's like we're never gonna win that way. Like, and there's a battle. And the thing is, it's like I don't know if you realize this, and you'll say you're not, but you're kind of on the forefront of this culture war with the things that you're doing, especially.
No, I will say, I'm not. People tell me I am, and I don't know why, but I'll go on.
But you are, because building that type of thing is comedians typically weren't, and if they were on the right, they didn't let it out. Right, that wasn't part of comedy. You didn't come out and say, "Hey, I'm funny and I voted for this person." It was like, no, you made fun of every politician because it was equal. SNL was great when they poked fun at whoever was president. And that kind of all stopped with Obama because they brought an Obama impersonator to be like flowery and love him. But it's like, that was always the thing. You made fun of whoever was there. And that was supposed to be the comedy. And like, but now it's like, we need conservative comedians that your comedy isn't conservative, but just your politics are. And you're not afraid to sit there and say like, no, That's fucking stupid. I don't side with the left on that.
No, it's sort of people get angry because they'll go like, you're too moderate or whatever it is, but I don't lie ever about my opinion, so I'm not just going to side with something because it supposedly. I don't feel that a group is going to rah and ever have all your interests at heart. I think that's nonsense. And I think a lot of the times too, with Republicans, whatever it is, I think before 1985, if you're a rich celebrity, we can just probably assume you're a Republican, and it's just going without being said.
Yeah.
And when they would go after people like Gerald Ford, Chevy Chase would, there was a bit of a hatred there, which when it first started, and they were really going after their parents' generation pretty hard. And then for a long time, like Dennis Miller would rip on, he would rip on Reagan, he would rip on Bush, and people would say, well, aren't you conservative? And he's like, yeah, but I'm making fun of who's in power. You're supposed to make fun of who's in power. And we've lost that completely now, where it's like we're making fun of the guy who used to be the president when we have the worst president ever. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't know all the stats in every president, but I can't imagine like there's anybody. Like, he's terrible in every way.
He's certainly top 3 worst of all time. Easy.
Easy.
And he's equally as easy to make fun of as the last president, if not easier.
Right. And I think they should have made fun of Trump in the same because he's the president. And I think you should but Biden, the SNL, you have like Jim Carrey coming out as a rock star. It's like this dude falls like this dude's going to get taken out by fucking falling on grass. Like, there's no, he falls off bikes. He can't finish a sentence. There's no reason.
He just said that if Trump comes for women, he's going to reap the benefit. I don't know what the fuck that was. What he said
he doesn't know what it means.
You come after women, you're going to reap the benefit. And every guy's like, cool. Like, we would love to reap the benefit of women. That's what most incels are hoping for. Like,
that's everybody at home is like, go on.
What do you know that we don't?
Yeah, he just speaks. That's the problem. And then you have all this stuff that's come out that's so damning to him that he's like, look, let's just admit the kiddie porn on the laptop is real, and there was a little bit of China. Like, the stuff that he's okay to like let out in the public now.
My daughter's diary, like, yeah, that's cool. I did that. I definitely showered with her when she was 16. Like,
he's like, it's totally legit. Just go. You can throw that in there. Just let's hide the bad stuff.
Delaware's the Mason Dixon. I'm good. But yeah, no, it's wild. And I think like the best skip for them would be like just make Joe Biden putting together competent sentences, and everyone would think that's funny because everyone knows he can't fucking speak. So it's like, it's wild. It is wild. But
and you hear people go, it's that's elderly abuse, and you're like, he runs the free world. At least as he's the puppet that does.
We're the ones being abused by the elderly in that phrase.
We have been for quite a while.
Yes.
People are disenfranchised and stupid. I was talking about this, stupefied by this. We were talking about this on my show the other day. You have this thing that happened 4 years ago where you locked down the country. It's not been solved. We've been economically destroyed. Yep. And you've watched people that are truly angry. And the whole reason why Trump, which is ridiculous when you really think about it, the guy from The Apprentice rose to power was because he was pointing out the people on the stage for being corrupt. Then it kind of proves itself. He ends up, let's say he ends up legitimately losing the presidency or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Like it was totally like Biden got 80 million votes and we all believe it.
It's accurate. It's real.
Yeah. Let's just say it's legitimate, right? Yeah. Now you have all these different people coming after him, including the media, the government, and everything, trying to stop Trump again. And it just proves his point again. So you're looking at a country that has been screwed over by their government, watching a guy get screwed over by the government. You're building a case for somebody to win again. I don't understand how they don't see that. Like, they don't realize they're the elites. They think they're this voice of democracy for like the poor. And I think people are just starting to wake up and go, you have no interest in us except for keeping us kind of stupid and unaware and thoughtless and voting for you, or at least, nodding our heads if we're asked if we voted for you.
Especially the crazies on the right now that are setting up the actual diametric thing they want to do by starting to say that fascism's kind of cool with your Christian nationalists and them saying Franco was cool. And it's like, guys, do you realize you're being the idiots that they're saying you are? Like, but I want to slide over I want to move
Dude,
into
any of it, man, though. Like my buddy
ridiculous.
was raised in Russia, though, and he came over here.
It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean
He's like,
that.
he's like, I'm gonna go back to Russia. This
Yeah.
sucks.
It's like, what happened?
Dude, they came here in the '90s with the Red Wings when we were bringing over KGB soldiers through the mafia, the way that hockey should be played.
Yes.
And it was just a bloody ice game of just is the best, dude. But he came over and his dad was the Wings trainer. And this is a dude who would wait in bread lines for hours. And then all of a sudden he got here, he's driving a Cadillac STS, and he can't fathom like the fact that he just went from essentially, a Siberian prison that's called a country to this country. Like, people do not understand that what they're talking about when it comes to fascism. They really don't get it when it's socialism and what they think it is. It just means that somebody who's very, very powerful has everything and everybody else gets nothing.
Yeah, but they read their Marxist, the Communist Manifesto, which was supposed to be a religious text, which was the original title, was something like a profession of the communist word or whatever. But I digress. I want to jump into comedic movies and movies that are meant to be comedy.
I'm going to put a transition in there. Are you just going to
No, it's not,
go right
not at
into
all. Not at all. It's going to be a hard transition here. Terrible host. But I want to ask you specifically about one that I think is going to be an absolute banger. What do you think about the American Society of Magical Negroes? How funny is that movie going to be?
Actually, it might be.
I'm sorry, is that real?
Yeah,
You didn't hear
it's
about
coming
this?
out. Oh, you didn't know about that?
No.
Oh my God. In 2024, this year, they are letting out a story of basically a society of Black people that are there to make white people feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And that's the comedy.
It's supposed to be ripping off of, I think, Spike Lee's a comment on how in the past movies there used to be a magical Negro that would go in and help the white person. So apparently this is
Bagger Vance or which
And
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
No.
But the movie itself, if you've seen the trailer for it, is ridiculous.
And my thing is, it could be funny. It could be funny if it was done by the right people.
If it was like a Wayans movie, maybe I'd be okay.
It was if it was the Wayans or something, or even like Key and Peele, like I think they would make it because they did.
Oh, brilliant!
They did a whole sketch on a sketch on the Key and Peele show about that. But no, I wish you would have seen that trailer, man. I probably should have put that in there.
I should have watched it. I didn't look it up because I wouldn't have assumed that was real.
Yes. But yeah, the state of comedy in general movies.
But is it like a reality or is it an actual?
It's supposed to be a comedy, but then it turns into like
it's supposed to be a
romantic
rom-com
thing, rom-com, and it's a
romantic comedy with.
I think it turns into a rom-com because like.
I'm looking at it now. I have to. I'm sorry.
The lead actor was the dude that played in Detective Pikachu. I don't know if that helps you at all. I don't know if you saw Detective Pikachu.
Okay, so you have David Allen Greer who's in it.
Yeah, David Allen Greer is in it.
Who's
Greer might have made it.
Yeah, so if David Allen Greer made it and it's from, I don't know, it could be. Well, this was just called Magical. What's the whole name?
The American Society of Magical Negroes.
Okay, so, David Allen Greer is really great. I mean, he's from In Living Color. So, I mean, truthfully...
I would say the trailer is what brings me down on this movie.
There is a lot of woke buzzwords, and they don't seem to be in comedic fashion.
Okay, well, I'm watching, and it's a lot of white people at Starbucks and working at, like, a Google. But David Allen Greer is very funny. I don't know. It might be funny. I'm sorry. I may not.
No, you're good.
No,
I mean, I'm sure it's absurd, but it is kind of. I mean, the whole idea is, they're going to use buzzwords to kind of parody the modern culture, and if that's what they're supposed to do, is okay. So it is a rom-com where live, laugh, and love drops from. Dude, I think it's got to. It's got to have self-awareness. If it doesn't, there can't.
That's where the question is whether it's self-aware. And
I'm hoping
because if it's self-aware, it could be actually funny. If not, then it's just weird.
Yeah, because I mean, years ago, Spike Lee made a movie called Bamboozled, which is an ultimate middle finger to the WB, and it's where they had an actual show called it was a those two black guys who like hunted chickens and ate watermelon, and they were called Mantan and Sleep and Eat. And it was played by Tommy Davidson and another guy. And like the guy who ran the studio is Michael Rappaport, and he just talks all completely black, and he's the only one that does. And Damon Wayne speaks very white. And it's actually, it's a very good movie. And I mean, and the WB was just, a lot of it was just an insult to culture, let alone black culture. I mean, it was terrible. And I think Spike Lee, it's like when a lot of black people watch a Medea movie. It just feels like it's setting you back. It just feels like you're being set back as a human race at that point. But, so it could be, if it's aware of itself, I think it could be funny because it is kind of, I mean, there is the white savior movie and the magic.
Yeah.
It could be funny.
It feels like if that movie was like transplanted and made early 2090s, then you're not exactly worried about it. You're just worried if it's actually funny or not.
If it's made now, it can be made with that anger and resentment that Hollywood only lets through, where it's like we have to have, and then you go, is this written by the CIA or is it a comedy?
Yes.
I can't figure it out. That's for sure. But yeah, it's like when the movie The Help came out, and I'm watching because it was an Oscar winner, and I'm like, this is the most awful, like just white savior, like just singing into hairbrushes, and it's like, why would you win anything? For some, like, stop making this movie. It's awful.
It's always been bad.
It's never been good. No white person. That's the part that people need to know. We don't want that. Nobody asked us. Nobody goes like, I want to go watch the, Sandra Bullock movie where she saves the giant black football player, because that seems right. This white lady just pulled up in the hood and it's like, I'm going to adopt you. And that worked out. Like, I know it's based on a true story. I just feel stuff was embellished. But it's like no white person is like, yep, that's how we do it. This seems exactly accurate. Yeah. It's why we have alarm systems and get upset when they move 3 houses down. But yeah, that's because we're such saviors, it's just, that's the problem is we're not honest with ourselves as a culture and a society. Like we're not creating the white savior movie. That's a group of people in Hollywood making it. And then we're just forced to watch it because we got like 8 things. And now there's so much content, you see less and less of it. But I've never seen any of those movies where, like, most of the movies, like, Remember the Titans wasn't a white savior movie. It was a good movie about race that I would show my kid because it's an accurate interpretation of race, because he asks about it now because he's almost 9. He's learning about it in school. He wants to know what happened to Martin Luther King. I told him about Malcolm X. I told him what he thought was bad about his young life. Like, Malcolm X was a guy who watched his dad get tied to train tracks in Lansing, Michigan and killed in front of him.
Yep.
He might not like white people.
Maybe.
So when he then he liked white women. Then he joined Nation of Islam and hated all white people. But then the second that he started preaching peace, they were like, well, we got to kill this guy.
You got to die. Yep.
Because the second you start unifying people, that's the danger. That's what people are afraid of. Like, keeping us divided it's all they want. It's the best. It's the best weapon they have, is to make us angry at each other. And movies like that are the perfect thing. So, yeah, that movie could be made specifically to make white people and black people both uncomfortable. Because I don't think a black person is going to see that title and go,
and be like, I need to see this.
Oh, it's good. Let's go see it. Hey, let's. Good. Finally, like an interracial couple's like a movie we can both see.
I honestly just want to go to that movie theater and just see if it's like a segregated theater, just so like no one, they like kind of like get like cues on when to laugh at what joke, if like what like the white people just look over first, see if they're allowed to laugh.
All the white people are in the back just to be polite.
Why do they get the best seats all the way up there? Damn it, we can't win. We can't win.
They're like, this is where the front's bad. And you're like, I don't know what to do.
Send help.
I'm sorry. It's my fault, right? I'm Irish.
And then you're looking at the movie going, wow, this is true. We really do need a black guy to make us feel comfortable right now.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And that is true. Like, God, and Bagger Vance was another one. And it was at a time where I liked both the actors, but you're watching it, I'm like, he's got a magic caddy. Why?
Yeah, at the time, it was just like, this is what we do. Like, it was
That's
an
what we do.
accepted thing. The only saving grace this movie might have, Rotten Tomatoes gave it, the actual reviewers gave it 47%. Whenever they
So it
say
might be good.
bad, it
Yeah, it
might be
might
really
actually be
good.
good.
It might
Yeah.
actually be funny.
Yeah.
So, I didn't
That's
read the
what I mean.
reviews,
Like,
but it
yeah,
could be good.
that's what I mean. If it's aware of itself and it's just mocking the whole ideology of
Yeah.
the black or white savior thing, then I think it's going to be great. And David Allen Greer comes from the irreverent school of Keenan Ivory Wayans, and that's what I
Yeah.
grew up on. I mean, I'm gonna get you, sucker is one of my favorites. My favorite is besides like Naked Gun, Airplane, is Don't Be a Menace. I think it's one of the funny, dude. It is such.
I love Don't Be a Menace.
It is the most underappreciated comedy. It is a laugh every second. It's
Watch
a
me get this
perfect.
girl's number. No, you can't. Bitch, give me your number.
One of my favorite.
He's a gun on
Pulls
it.
out the gun.
When the one guy is finally getting out of hood and going to college and he gets sniped.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's by the white guy, and they're like, the man.
yeah, it's really good. Yeah, but again, those
And that was a great spoof of those movies, those parody
Yes.
movies. It was a great spoof of, because I was a teenager at the time, and I loved Boys in the Hood. I mean, I still do, Menace to Society, but those were huge films at the time.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, you had Jungle
Baby Boy
Fever,
and
you
stuff
had
like that.
Yeah, Baby Boy, yeah, that came out a little bit after that, but that was still John Singleton.
Yep.
But that was those were movies that came, and I mean that was a perfect parody of it because they made fun of like the little stuff in the movie that just seemed too exaggerated. So it's like, we got arrested for being black on a Friday night. Or you had Bernie Mac as the cop who's like, I hate the black keys on the piano. I hate Whoopi Goldberg's lips.
I gotta watch that movie again. I might watch it after this podcast.
You know, and like Friday was a masterpiece. And that was one that just sort of resonated with everybody in every neighborhood because we've all had friends and dealt with bullies, and it just happened that it was set in South Central, but it was something that resonated to everyone.
Yeah.
So the divisive comes in when it's like, let's separate it, but let's act like it's the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
And one of them saves the day, and it's painful.
I think that this could be good because I'm reading some of these critiques and some of them are saying like they're not going far enough with like the message. So that makes me feel actually pretty good about it. Because maybe that just means that it's limited and they're actually trying to make fun of just the whole environment. So
yeah, because what's the message is what I think we all secretly agree on of like, yeah, we don't want you to make the movies anymore.
yeah,
Nobody wants to watch. Nobody liked Karina. Nobody liked, there's just a list of nonsense that has been made over the years that no one wants to deal with. No one cares. Like,
when are you and Quarter Black going to do a full feature comedy film? We got to get one from you guys in a group. That's got to be something. Laugh our asses off at it.
We've actually talked about it. We've been doing more and more stuff just to see. We just filmed one today about Target that I'm very excited to have released. And the other day we put out a new sketch called Fallen Oates about the Hall and Oates separation and how Hall filed a restraining order on Oates.
Which is hilarious. Which is absolutely hilarious that happened.
Dude, it's incredible.
Skit. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, check it out. It's called Fallen Oates. It's a trailer for the movie. Oates is not happy with his choice.
Awesome.
Yeah, we just like to kind of parody that, but I would like to do something like I really liked Keanu when I saw it in the theater that Keegan-Michael Key did.
Yep.
And he's a dude who started at Second City in Detroit, which is where I started. And I've admired sketch comedy longer than stand-up. It's always been something I loved. When I grew up in the Detroit area, we had SNL, but we also had Kids in the Hall because we were right across. So we got the CBC and we got like all kinds of really interesting sketches, and it was a whole different world of it. And I kind of want to put that into a process to make an entire film, because I have made a feature film. It's old now. It's from 2013. It's called The King of Detroit. It's got its flaws. We made it for $7,000, but it definitely has some scenes that I really, really like. And it was like a coming of age tale, loosely based on my life. And then we just added, a lot of violence to it. So
gratuitous violence just for the
Yeah, it's about kids going into Detroit to get alcohol.
Nice.
And yeah, so it's sort of just, yeah, it becomes from day goes right into night, like a John Carpenter film, becomes like almost a horror movie, Judgment Night sort of a thing. And, you know, because that's how it felt when you were buying beer back then. You know, you would go into, I grew up on 8 Mile, but then there was a part of 8 Mile where once you crossed, you were in the hood, and I grew up in the nicer part. And then you would drive a mile to get to the really bad part. And then you would go in and, you know, get booze. I'd buy it at 15, and I couldn't have looked like I was more than 11. And I'm like, oh, it's great. They sold me a 30-pack of Busch for $800. I don't know what it is. They totally bought it.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So you being a comedian, you've been doing this, you know, for a long time. The roles that comedians have in society right now, a lot of the times you guys, you know, you're presenters at awards and things like that. And where do you see the roles of comedians outside of just doing those types of things? What do you see your role in society as a whole? Are you just doing it because you enjoy it? You want to make people laugh? Are you doing it for a little more? Like, what is the role of the comedian right now?
Money. So that's all.
It's a good reason.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to take any magic out of it. No, a black guy appeared to me when I was 19 and taught me how to do stand-up.
Said you must
name Richard Pryor. He just showed up on your screen and you started laughing your ass off.
And last year I started appearing in a young boy's dreams, and I'm doing the same. So I think of the role really of a comic as just to entertain, make people laugh, whether it's your story, whatever resonates with you. I have stories about my recovery and alcoholism and my drug abuse that relates with people, or just my political opinion, why I got where I got. You know, there's a lot of different things, but I think the role of a comedian is to point out everything that's wrong. And there's a lot of stuff that's wrong. When you talk about award ceremonies and you want to see it done right, Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes is a prime example of somebody who did not care and humiliated a room of people so badly they invited him back to do it again, which I really admired. But I think it is to create, it's to shine a light on everything that's going on. And you got to be careful not to be too far up your own ass, though, and take yourself too seriously. And I think that's where a lot of comics sometimes get, where it's like it's too profound. Part of it is not being the smartest guy in the room. Part of it is looking at it and realizing, okay, well, this seems wrong, and then putting it into a very clear, dumbed down way of how I think, at least. You know, a lot of people would think that it's stupid. I mean, Chappelle had a great bit just recently where he was talking about meeting Jim Carrey. I don't know if you saw that.
That was the opening of his new special.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
It was,
where he was
right.
Where Jim was doing the Andy Kaufman show movie, and he was in character.
Yeah, and the whole time he has to call him Andy, and he's Jim Carrey, which it's the most aggravating thing when you think about actors like that. But then the joke was, you know, at the end, that's how I feel when I talk to a trans person.
And the way he delivered it was perfect.
But it's simplified.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's not I'm better than you and I'm smarter than you. It's I'm the bad guy in this, and I'm being funny, but I'm also letting you feel comfortable laughing at something like this. And that sort of me is funny on so many levels. Like method actors I find hilarious, like Daniel Day-Lewis just walking around talking like Bill the Butcher at the craft service table has to be the most annoying shit on earth, where it's like, where's the coleslaw? And you're like, are you going to do this all day? And there's a story with like Peter Weller, who played RoboCop, and Miguel Ferrer was one of his co-stars. Did you see that story?
Yes, I saw that story.
I didn't see it.
Miguel Ferrer, Peter Weller's in character the whole time, or trying to be. He's like, hello, my name is, Murphy, and Miguel Ferrer's like, oh, fuck you, just like immediately.
And as he's sitting there getting like pads of makeup put on his fucking face, he's trying to be a robot. It's like, stop it.
So he just immediately stopped the method acting thing, because the other guy's just like, I'm not doing this with you. You're sitting there dressed as a robot. Like, what, you can't stay in robot character? You can't stop talking like a robot, or you'll forget Like, shut
You
up.
forget that you're a giant metal, you dumb bastard.
Yeah, yeah. You just talk like a robot. You're a head in a machine.
So we have our fun fact about our dad and Dave Chappelle. Do you remember this story, Dave?
No.
Back in the day, my dad, mom, my aunt, uncle went to go see comedy shows, and it was when Eddie Murphy at Beverly Hills Cop just came out, and Dave Chappelle was just starting out, like really young, opened for him. It was over somewhere in Jersey. They were at this comedy club close to the front. My dad has his feet on the stage as Dave Chappelle walks up,
I remember this.
and he just looks at him and goes, "Hey, are you somebody?" in Dave's way. And my dad's like, no, no. He goes, "Then get your crack ass feet off my stage, motherfucker." And my dad just starts laughing. And like they said, they're like, that's when they knew. Like they said he was hilarious. And they're like, we knew if he stayed, staying with the profession, he was gonna be funny. And then later that night, my uncle threatened Eddie Murphy's life and they got kicked out. So
Well, that will happen. Why
Eddie-
was it? Was
Eddie
it because
Murphy-
of Norbit?
no, it was should have
It
been.
did. Might have
But,
been worth it at that point, but
my uncle is a very big Italian man from Newark, and Eddie Murphy essentially said that my aunt was liking his big black schlong later that night, and my uncle went from being his biggest fan for Beverly Hills Cop to I don't give a fuck if you got money, I'm gonna kill you, and they were like, you gotta go. So that's the funny, we have a good thing with comedians in our family.
That's good. That's incredible. Dave Chappelle was probably like 14 or 15 when that story happened too.
Had to be young.
He started
yeah.
very, very young.
Absolutely. And just to have that, I got to give you guys credit with that because obviously you do it so many times. You're getting, you get used to it. But starting out, that spotlight's on you. And, part of the shtick is being interactive with the crowd and making the crowd feel like, you're there and you're into them. How much more does that become a natural thing as you get into it? And are there some places where you walk in where you're just like, I'm going to have to work a little bit harder because this is fucking flat right now?
Oh, for a long time, it's like that. I mean, and it still does. I mean, for years and years until you have your own audience showing up, there's people that aren't excited to see you, and then even now, you have people that show up that may not necessarily know you, and that can be difficult. And yeah, depending on the crowd's mood. I mean, dude, if you're playing Vegas on a Saturday, and everybody in the room lost, money that day, they're not happy. But I mean, that's even, at least you're in Vegas, you feel like you're kind of important.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Sometimes you're just at a bowling alley at some point in your career where there's 6 people, they hate you, and you're like, boy, this is great. Like, then you're driving home on an icy road, and you're just like, this is what I just did for $150, and you're just deciding if it's the worst feeling in the world, but you push through because you love what it is, and you keep pushing forward because there's really nothing better. I mean, if it's your skill, it's your skill. You're lucky to have it, and you craft it. I mean, that's why so many people want to do it. They think it looks easy. They think it looks, it's like anything that looks easy. Everything that looks easy is probably pretty hard. It's like watching somebody rock out on guitar, do something where I'm just mesmerized as an audience member. But comedy's a weird one because everybody thinks they're funny.
I know I'm not funny. I know that I'm just fucking.
well,
I have
everyone that listens to the
laughs.
show knows that.
I mean, they laugh at me. They're not laughing with me. They're like, this dude is laughing at his own jokes because he's fucking stupid. But so overall, like I'd imagine when you get in those moments, though, you're probably like, let me try my jokes that I don't know if they're gonna work on this crowd because I'm not gonna pull out my best stuff because they're probably not gonna laugh anyway. So let me try that one that maybe might work. And if I get a chuckle here, I know it might work somewhere else.
Oh, if it's not working, I'll just start pulling out the darkest stuff I have that will offend most of the people in the room, or I'll just start doing crowd work. Believe me, I blame the audience. Like I shouldn't, but there is a point where you hear like a young Jay Leno be like, "You never blame the crowd," and it's like, yeah, you kind of do. I don't know. There's a difference between 1985 and now, where people have cell phones and don't care and can't handle their drinking in ways I've never seen before.
Wow.
It's like
self-entitlement is insane. Everyone's
dude,
so self-entitled.
And they don't care. Like, I've seen people go off on people in the front row for like scrolling on their phone, which I think is annoying as hell. And like, I was just at Rogan's Club, and he makes people put their phones in a bag, and I think it's great.
A lot of places.
But at the same time, I don't even acknowledge it because I just expect it. And I've told comics, I'm like, what are you yelling? Like, there's no reason to get mad at it. They're just programmed at this point
And you just
to
look at
do
them and say,
something like that.
thanks for paying for that front row ticket, for not paying attention. Like, thanks for paying me to just not pay
Yeah.
me. Fuck you. I'm like, thank
Yeah.
you. I'm happy to take your money. Like, I hope I made your husband laugh. Like, go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, yeah. And then it's the babysitter who's like, I'm sorry, what's your kid? Where's your kid's EpiPen? And you're like, I don't want, but you want a comedian to call you queer. And you're like, this is,
So speaking of that, in terms of, obviously you have your own audience now. So your audience kind of knows your style of humor and things like that. But do you often get those randos in there that maybe lean more left and we're going there because someone said, hey, Dave's funny, let's go do this, he's going to offend you, and they get a little too offended? Like, how is it navigating this stupid world that we live in now as a comedian? Especially, I'd imagine certain venues you maybe aren't going to get all your demographic, right? So how is it
no.
navigating that?
I was lucky enough where I started, I worked in both circles. I mean, I worked in black rooms, white rooms. So and it's where I grew up too. So my comedy's never been very much based for a certain group. Mm-hmm. But as far as politics, everything's become political. So it is an interesting question in that way, where something you can say may not even be political.
Yep.
And the problem is now is, yes, people will show up who may not like me, but 95% of the time I hear a story later, or, almost of shows that I do where they come up to me or send me a message saying they thought they'd hate it because they saw that I was on some conservative network or on some show, but they really enjoyed it and they related to something, and it was different because most of my comedy and what I talk about on my show comes from a place of empathy. Mm-hmm. And I come from a place of vulnerability, and the stuff that I talk about is from my heart. It's not designed to offend you. It's true stories. I'm not there to hurt you, that may be different for other people. But I mean, for example, I have a joke where I'm talking about the trans swimmer. And, the joke is essentially like, if I were to compete as a woman, it would make no difference whatsoever. Like, I wouldn't be winning any trophies. Nobody would be protesting. It'd just be the announcers going like, I don't know who this fat girl is. Like her balls are hanging out of her bathing suit. She clearly has diabetes, and I did this whole bit about it, and I had it it was in Washington. So it kind of makes sense. But in the crowd, you have gay people, you have trans people who are just seeing a show, and the guy stands up, clearly gay guy once he started talking. And, but he just goes, "This is the most homophobic show I've ever been to in my entire life." And he's got his camera out, and I go, "How?" And he goes, "What you just said is so wrong and so transphobic." And I said, "Well, how so?" I was making fun of me and my tits and my inability to be an athlete. I go, are there any people here that are gay or trans? And they start clapping. And I go, "Were you offended?" Not one person.
Exactly.
So the guy immediately is like embarrassed, and he's putting his phone back, but he wants that minute. He's only there because he wanted to make a scene, ruin any career. It didn't matter the comic, but he wanted a viral video. So now he's running out the exit, and they stop him. They're like, "You got to pay your bill. You don't get to just make a scene." And he goes, "I may have overreacted. Could I go back in?" And they're like, "No, you can't go back in. You can't come back here ever again." But I think that's a large problem we have, too, is we assume that because somebody is supposed to be identified in a liberal group or as far left-leaning, that one, that's their actual beliefs, and two, they're humorless. And that's just not true. A lot of the art is on the left. And a lot of that has been the problem of right-wingers, is we haven't been creative. We haven't been, a lot of people haven't. And so when you talk about the thing of irony and like getting stuff, and we haven't been the artistic group. And I think now you see the shift because a lot of people that are artists also have different values, or at least lean a little bit more right than they once did. And it's something that's never been seen before. But it's like, dude, there's drag queens that do stand-up will say the most offensive shit you've ever heard.
Yes.
So it's like, they're not the ones, you hear people talking about, well, there's drag shows in libraries, and it's like, yeah, but that's not the same guy who's doing stand-up that's horribly offensive at 11 o'clock at night. That's not the same person. Like, it's all lumped into one thing. And that's the problem in our society is we all want to divide it into two categories, and that's utter bullshit. Some people that are trans just want to sit there and laugh because it's a funny trans joke. They don't care. You know, like it's the same as you don't care about whatever your heritage is or whatever, you know, it's like, I don't care that I don't sit there when somebody makes a short joke, like 1,000 women making jokes about it. They don't say short guys. And I'm like, this is some bullshit. What? I'm 5'6". I've never been so offended in my life. Like who cares? You know, I think most people fall in that line. We were just trained to be quiet for so long.
And I think if you're self-aware, like you kind of don't give a shit, like a trans person's going to know what's funny about being a trans person, right? Like the jokes and the things that are funny about it. And if they're self-aware and they're truly trans, right? I think there's the difference between the fad of being trans and truly actually feeling that way, having the true gender dysmorphia, but it's legit, right? And they know what's funny about it and they're able to laugh at it. And I think that's a big thing. And you have the small minority of people that just want to be offended by everything. And I think if anything in your joke, that gay guy missed it because he should have called you out for fat shaming, not for anything else.
Yeah, really, which is still fat shaming myself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you're not being body positive. This is the least body positive show I've ever been to in my entire life.
But at least it would have been more accurate.
Yeah, he would have been spot on because there's nothing about it that's homophobic. No, and you're right. No, you're absolutely right. And that's how we are now. And I think we have to realize that, yes, there is a fad, there is a trend, but that's with everything. People are so worried about being liked on this massive scale on everything that they do because we've never been judged by so many people at once and anonymously. And I think people live in a great deal of fear. And people can be easily hurt, and I don't blame them for that. I think people have dealt with trauma and have their own emotions and have to deal with that. They don't need to be destroyed every day of their life on top of it, you know, on top of what goes on in their dailies. And we're at a point now where, you know, people are broken. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of, it's sad because people they don't know their own identity because they're so afraid to be themselves because they're afraid if they show who they are, they'll be rejected. And the second they're rejected, that leads into something else, which, like you said, becomes this fad. Becomes a fad of you becoming another person completely and never respecting or loving yourself. And believe me, as a guy with bipolar depression and I'm suicidal, I get it. And I don't mean it in a fun way. I just mean it like, I get it. I understand hating yourself. I totally understand. I fought with it my whole life. So, but it's like, you cannot look outwardly for that. You're never going to find it. And the problem is everything is so superficial now. That's what we want. We want people to just like our opinion. And that's why we hear so many parrots and opinions aren't really all that new or interesting or exciting, because it's just parroted bullshit because they know that they're going to be liked and accepted for that parroted bullshit.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to bring up. Because like you said, most people want to laugh. They want to enjoy that time and everything. But we've come to a point where, you know, especially because we have phones, because we can record everything, where if you're not entirely sure yourself and you want to gain that in crowd like he did, you go and clout chase and you virtue signal and you try to show what you are to people who generally don't care instead of finding what you are as a person and to yourself. So, yeah, no, I thought that was something that you could really pick at that story. Because, I mean, there's obviously all the new buzzwords that he was using and everything, but it's deeper than that, like you brought up, where you feel like you have to do this so you could show that you're really standing for something and people could see that you're standing for this thing.
Yeah, he was my magic gay man who was guiding me into the right light. But you're right. It is exactly that. And here's the part that's so fascinating. Not only do you have what I'm doing wrong, and you're deliberately getting it wrong because you're just waiting for buzzwords. You have no idea what I've been through in my life. You don't know anything about me, and you want to take away everything that I've ever earned based on one video, and that's what you want to do as your claim to fame. And you see that happen all the time. And that's really what I think is one of the most depressing things that is out there right now, where people say, it's not, cancel culture isn't real. It's like, well, sure it is. I understand there's taking responsibilities for saying something horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is if you're speaking into a microphone at a comedy club, there's a very good chance you're joking.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Usually a pretty good chance.
No, that's dead serious.
Yeah.
You're just
right.
being dead serious there.
It's a treatise.
Right. Yeah. It's the same reason why when you watch a movie that's an action movie, they don't actually arrest, Keanu Reeves for playing John Wick and murdering 300 people.
Well, they might arrest Wesley Snipes for trying to be Blade still.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
I mean, listen, actors can't act anymore. You got to act exactly as you are. You can't act as a gay person. The gay person has to be a gay person now.
That's insane.
It's the most ridiculous thing that and it's funny too in that sphere where some of the woke actors and actresses are pushing back a little against that, where it's like, no, fuck you. I'm an actor. I'm an actress. I can act as whoever I'm put in that role. That is my job. But it's kind of like happy to see them getting spoon fed a little bit of their own medicine at times. Like it's a little cathartic at times to watch them do that.
Yeah. And I feel like, sorry, you can go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like a lot of what's missing, especially because, you bring it up, Alex, gay actors having to play gay characters, which is otherworldly ridiculous. What's the point of an actor? But what seems to be missing is a lot of the human element. And I feel like that's part of what comedy can bring out, especially bearing everything and trying to show relevance in your stories and your comedic timing and everything. But we're missing a lot of what made us just normal people. in the past. Yes. A lot of it just is we have shit to deal with. Everyone has shit to deal with. So unless someone is hyper against you and really trying to personally hurt you, you just don't necessarily care. And you kind of shrug it off and laugh whatever off.
Yes, and that's really what it was. And and yeah, that's very well put. It's like it used to be if something was really personally ready to attack you, that's when you took offense.
Yes. And
it does come back to, how crazy we've gone off the rails with that, where, we have made it where it's so coddled. With acting, the whole, and even to go back onto both those things, even with acting, could you imagine shooting The Whale with a guy who was like that? It's not, it's we have a morbidly obese gay
I might want to see that. I'm not going to lie to you.
But it's he's just eating pizzas and vomiting into a trash can. And you're like, we should really get an actor. But you have a real paraplegic in my left foot, or you have what you call
you got the real just vegetable in the Stephen Hawking movie. He has to be
right, yeah, or the sequel where he's on a pleasure cruise. But
I still honestly, the only thing I'm curious about is how the fuck did that work? It's disgusting, but how?
I assume they just slapped him, they just put him on his face and poked him with a fucking broom.
Was it Monty Python? Sit on my face and tell me that you love me. I can't playing that song over and over and over.
If I was the girls, you think they would just stand around and punch him? It would just be, what's he gonna do? Hurt you? It's a monster.
Have him chase you around in his little robot car.
Yeah. I think break his computer that lets him talk. Stupid blinking computer. Yeah.
With one of the girls and you see him pop up, you look around is this a joke? Is this supposed to be a bit? Are we supposed to laugh at this one? What is happening here?
So it's just, Jeffrey, you gave us a clown.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But
it's any role. But you do roles with drug addicts. You do roles with that. Is the person supposed to be on heroin?
Neil Patrick Harris played the best womanizing straight man ever on TV.
Ever.
Yeah. Barney Stinson is the best womanizing straight man. He was freaking hilarious. And Neil Patrick Harris is gay as it gets. But you don't have to be that in order to it's baffling where we've become.
It's a craft, and the whole idea is you play other people because you empathize with who these people are. You learn about them and you become the character. Because it's very hard for a lot of the people that you play to be in something. I mean, the original groundskeeper for Caddyshack wasn't Bill Murray. It was the groundskeeper. And the guy was so riddled with PTSD and everything that they ended up having to bring in Bill Murray. You can't really have the character you're trying to play necessarily be in the movie. And that's a pretty soft example.
Yeah.
You have to have people that know how to act to be able to portray the character and the story you're trying to convey. You can't just go well, we have to. It's the same as the dude on Family Guy who's well, I'm going to step aside now and let a black guy do the voice of Cleveland. And it's You're 18 seasons in, a multi-millionaire, and had your own show. This isn't virtuous.
Yeah.
It's just annoying that you're even giving into it.
And I'm sorry, it's a fucking parody. It was supposed to be a parody on a black man living in a suburban block. That was the whole purpose of Family Guy. It's all parody. So like having a white dude portraying a black guy that's like kind of, you know, the whitish black guy, like that's the whole fun of it. And it's just bizarre when people just sniff their own farts, right? And just sit there and just give in. That's all it is. They're just sniffing their own farts and feeling great about themselves.
Essentially, yes.
And it's tedious.
Patting themselves on the back and giving each other, you know, trophies for doing something that is literally nothing. It's less than nothing.
The same hands that they used to shake Harvey Weinstein's hand over and over and over and over again. Now they're being virtuous with. So.
Yes.
Well, hypocrisy, shaking more than his hand for some of them, but
yeah.
But yes.
Sorry.
Well,
did I say that
just
out loud?
watch him shower. Yeah.
So, last thing I want to jump in on, I want to talk about Normal World, your show with Quarter Black Garrett. It's a fantastic show.
Thank you.
The conception of it? What was the theory? Why did you guys? Because you know, obviously, you and Quarter Black were both over on Crowder. Quarter Black went over to, you know, Friday Night Tights and stuff, and Dave and I, you know, was watching them there. And you guys get together, and once I started to hear about that, and Dave was talking about, there's a show, I follow the Blaze. I like Glenn Beck and Pat Gray and stuff. So when that was going on, it was like Normal World, Dave Landau, Quarter Black. I'm like, number one, awesome that they're back together. I'm like, that's sick. And number two, it's like, it's going to be a sketch show. It's going to reset late night. And I thought it was a cool concept. What is the thought process behind you guys getting together and doing that? And how has it been?
Well, I was on Steven's show, and it really became more news, and he and I had semi-public stuff, but it was, you know, stuff that, you know, when you lose friendships and you lose stuff, it becomes regrettable.
And you don't have to get deep into that stuff.
No, it's kind of but we weren't filming sketches, and that's what I was hired to do. So I put together a sketch show, figured I might pitch it, but we didn't end up doing it. So I just got together a group of people that were my friends and people that had been interested in doing sketches, and we put it together a pilot, which is on my YouTube channel at Dave Landau Comedian. And we put together a half-an-hour pilot, and after I left the show, I shopped it around. A lot of people have the story a bit backwards, where if I stayed with Blaze or I did that, none of that's true. We just wanted to create a sketch show that was set somewhat in the future, but not that far, where a lot of the stuff, even in the pilots, sort of come true. But, you know, the first sketch we wrote was Matt McClowry and I actually wrote it. It was Victims Anonymous. And it was us sitting in a circle just talking about how we were victimized. And then an actual refugee whose wife was beheaded comes in, but they don't like that he's using terms like wife because they're possessive. And, you know, and then we had commercials like Manpack's Pearl Harbor for male tampons, which
I remember that one.
I do remember that one was great.
Yeah. And we ended up getting it brought back. Like, they had pulled it off pretty much every site that you can stream anything. But I fought for it because it's not actually making fun of trans people. It's just about jamming a tampon into your urethra. Yeah. And that's all it is. Like, it's just like, jam this into your dick hole against God's will. It's just nonsense. So we have that. And then from there, we sort of built
the best origin story ever.
Yes. And then we had what was the other one? We had the at-home AI thing, which was a take on, or the at-home Alexis, that was a take on 2001: A Space Odyssey. And then the one that really scared off all conservative buyers was Demon Molesters, where if there's a demon in your house, these two guys come back and love it so much that it goes back to hell. So almost every
It annoys me that warded off conservative buyers, because it's an amazing sketch.
Dude, it's so funny too, because the demon looks amazing. It's seriously like, it is Marvel good. And it's a demon with a gag ball in its mouth, tied over like
I
a
feel like you could
spanking
sell that to
chair.
Marvel now as a hero. Like they would go
Oh
for
yeah,
that
yeah,
now.
yeah. Yeah, they actually bought it.
That's
Yeah.
actually the new
Sorry,
Hellboy.
we don't use
That's
it
the new
anymore. They
Hellboy
have
is that exact guy.
Yes, yes. It's a submissive monster, and it's very sexy. And we
BDSM,
shopped it
man.
around. Yeah, we shopped it around, and some people had some interest. We shopped it to regular channels. We had actually a lot of interest, and Daily Wire was, or not Daily Wire. I guess I just outed that as an interested party, but we had brought it into Blaze, and they were the ones that were most interested in it, and they wanted it to be somewhat of a podcast too. So we figured to work in that element, and it's not exactly where we want it yet. Truthfully, it's been in there 7 months, but I'm very happy with it. The sketches we put out are really good.
Yeah,
The guests we have are interesting.
Mhm.
The people that we're getting in more every day to find the rhythm. QB was very much behind a board for so long, and now he's coming into his own as an interviewer, and it's really nice to watch. And I have Matt McClowry, who's a brilliant comic, who's a writer. Angela is a great actress, but now she's learning how to be great, as people really love her just as an on-air persona. So we're trying to mix that, where we bring people on, we bring on fascinating people, and we add that element of sketch. And we're not just bringing in people who are on any other channel. We're willing to make any joke we want, and we're willing to bring on anybody and talk to them. And it pisses people off, and frankly, I don't care.
Good.
Shutting the
That's
door,
what you
yeah.
want to do. If you could piss
Yeah.
everybody off, then you're doing something right? If you have people on both sides calling you an asshole, then you're like, all right, we're doing something good. Let's keep it
Oh
going.
yeah, yeah. If we don't have bad comments about something, we know it wasn't funny to us, because we do want somebody to just be like, I don't. This is odd. Why would you do this?
This was too far. That's not far
Yes.
enough. I know.
Yeah.
I know I can
Yeah.
go farther.
Right. You're like, no, we tamed it back.
Yeah.
Like this was. Yeah, that's why we separate. We actually put out Demon Molesters as a separate movie, not too far after Halloween, after the year we filmed it last year. I think we called it. I don't know what we called it. It's on my thing. It's like it don't hit send. And now we've watched watch and react videos from like 16-year-olds who think it's a horror movie. And it's the best, because they love it. They just start laughing. They're like, wait a minute, what he say? Because they just showed up, and it's just two guys who are like, listen, explaining, like, you should kill it. Like, kill it? Like, come on. If we can kill it, we do that. That's not what this is about.
No.
They're
You
like,
know who we are?
They're like, demons hate things like love, compassion. They don't. You can't just kill a demon. just brutally rape it.
I gotta say, it was because of your show that I found out who Floodzilla was. Because
He's great, isn't he?
I watched the original episode, and I've seen Floodzilla's fantastic. So but your show's cool with that. Like as you said, you have guests that are unique, and you wouldn't necessarily seen coming into like the conservative sphere, right? Like you guys bring on a whole bunch of different people. So I definitely recommend going on there. It's a podcast, obviously. Go search Normal World. It's everywhere. You'll find Blaze Podcast Network, and it still is Pluto. Is it 250 on Pluto? Channel 250, I think, is Blaze TV. You can find it. It's on Pluto TV. I know that, and it's also
on there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's over there. So
I'm glad I could help by interrupting that by going. It's up there.
You definitely know the channel. We everyone else knows it too.
Dave hosts his own show, but no, it's but no, definitely go there. I recommend it, especially if you're tired of a bunch of the late night bullshit going on, and none of them are funny, so don't watch them. Watch Normal World, because the skits are funny in the beginning.
If you want to see a bunch of vaccines dance around as they sing a song to you, maybe you could watch a late night show from someone else. But
yeah, on a guy's show who is semi-conservative in real life. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it.
I mean, listen, some people sell their souls for the man, and it doesn't make a difference, right? Like, as long as they're keeping on getting that money, it does not matter what they say. And
shouldn't it be funny?
You would think, right?
I think it's funny to watch how poorly it was done, and imagining what the backstage was of making up that whole segment. Like, you knew it had to be an absolute shit show back there.
Oh, there's no way that Colbert wasn't like, or do I really have to do this? Like, like, I get it. You want people to be jabbed, but like, do we really have to do this, like, and it's just somebody putting on a needle costume. Like this used to be used for comedy, but you know how much funny stuff you can do with needle costumes.
Anthony Fauci used to hate this, and now he loves it because he was.
Oh, dude, yeah. There's a guy. There's a guy
HIV,
who killed more.
and,
But yeah, there's a guy who, he killed more people trying to cure AIDS than the disease did.
Well, Anthony Fauci might have like a higher death rate than some of like the worst dictators of all time. Like he really might be up there.
Dude, when that Disney movie where he's walking through in the documentary and he's walking through like the AIDS garden, and it's all white flags, and it's like it's your bodies, dude. Like you invented the cocktail, like
the Viet Cong coming to like the Vietnam War memorials here, and it's like, oh, these are great. Like this is a great memorial. Like
he's just like, look at what I did. I caused all of this. Like,
so, last question for you: with the whole entire strike that went on, do you feel like that helped you guys on Normal World, where a lot of the late night nonsense wasn't there, and if people were looking for something more late night, they were trying to find it, Normal World was still there?
Briefly, but they came back pretty much right after we started.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if we're looking for the same thing anymore. I think late night is so dead.
Yeah.
That with the exception of a few great comedians like Nate Bargatze and some other people that have really popped off of it, I don't think people are watching it for that anymore, because you can get very real one-on-one conversations that aren't the same 6 stories told on the same talk show circuit. You're just not getting anything in depth. And if you watch old like Dick Cavett interviews, where he's got on like Marlon Brando and Sammy Davis Jr., this was a guy who did his homework and was in the 70s was able, and even though he's very dry, he was able to build some very provocative late night television.
Yeah, definitely.
And and so was Carson. But I mean, it was a different animal, and you don't see anybody doing that. It's it's paint by numbers, make everybody comfortable, don't offend anybody, don't do anything that, the best sketch. Sorry if I'm babbling, but like, I didn't even know this sketch existed with The Rock, for example, with SNL. And my friend showed it to me the other day. We were driving to Austin to do shows, and he goes, "Have you ever seen this Rock sketch about the world's most evil invention?" And I said, "No." So it's a mad scientist convention, and the first guy who goes up has like a laser that will burn the world, and the next one's a laser that will freeze the world. And then he goes up and he goes, "I made a child molesting robot."
The hell?
Right.
Out of nowhere.
And they're like, they're all horrified. And they're like, "Dude, that's evil." He goes, "Yeah, I looked up evil. It means complete absence of morals. So I made a robot that molests children. They're very cheap to make. And you can make them." He goes, "You can make, and it actually molests robots. It actually molests kids twice as fast as a normal human predator." And dude, I was driving. I almost had to pull over. I was crying, laughing. And it's The Rock, and it's from like 5 years ago. I don't know if SNL buried it. It's one of the funniest sketches they've ever done.
I've never seen that. How have I never seen that?
Oh,
dude, it's so good. And he looks at one guy. He's like, "This guy knows what I'm talking about." He's like, "How would I know what you're talking about?" He's like, just dressed as like an evil bad guy. And they're like, "We think you should leave." And he's like, "I don't understand why you should leave." Like, she goes, "But this woman goes, I wanted to freeze the world." And he's like, "I know. And I made a robot that molests children." Like,
and I can see The Rock, because Rock has good delivery, especially from being in WWE. He knows how to say ridiculous shit straight-faced or in character. So I can see him delivering this beautifully too.
Oh, it's great. And it looks like a sci-fi robot from like an Ed Wood movie. So it's just this amazing. Like the whole thing is just like, it's one of the most, and then the ending is just this flip where he's like, "Well, let's go across the street to the tiny castle where we can eat the small sandwiches." He's like, "Just call it White Castle." It's like, "What's wrong with you?" And then at the end, it just says, "White Castle will serve anybody."
That's amazing.
Dude, it was a perfect
release that. My God.
Dude, I don't know if they may have. Is that when they may have put it out? I don't know, but I had no idea it existed.
It's from their channel for 14 million views. How the hell did I miss this?
Dude, so many. I've told this to probably 3 other people since I saw it. Just 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and nobody I know has heard of it.
Holy
Even with
shit.
those 14 million views, and I mean, dude, I was driving. I rarely laugh out loud at TV, and right when he said that, I did not. I just was in tears at how offensive and perfect, and he delivers it so dry, and he's just like, yeah, it's a robot.
Maybe at your
And
next
it's just-
show, you should take a show of hands of anybody that's ever seen this fucking sketch. And
It's
like every show,
incredible.
you should take a pulse of who's seen it.
And it's this beautiful play too on evil.
Yeah.
Where they're talking about these evil scientists, and they're like, well, freeze the world. And then he actually says it's the complete absence of morality. So he like, so you have and he just goes, yeah, so did I win or what? And they're like,
You gotta leave.
And I realized it's now kept playing a joke on me because I literally typed in YouTube robot that molests children. So now that's in my search bar.
Not only do we have Dave Landau on the show, you're doing that.
yeah, be careful. The FBI might come in your house and start masturbating.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
The FBI
how
agent
do
right
you
now is
know? We need
going
that
crazy.
information.
Yeah. They're like, oh, what, did you have some of that? Well, we love this stuff.
last thing I want to say, and I think part of the issue is
I will say
Go ahead,
you
Dave.
lied because I have a question. You always seem to skip over.
Oh yeah, no, okay.
Even though
you're gonna
usually have a non sequitur. This time it's not a non sequitur because I genuinely want to know this answer
Okay, go
much
for it.
more than anything else I could think of. What is your favorite stand up of all time you've ever seen?
The more and more I think about it, definitely Norm Macdonald. Probably Hitler's Dog is one of my favorites. Or actually, me doing stand up is an absolutely incredible special where he talks about alcoholism being a disease. As I'm an alcoholic, so I really love the joke.
I think that's on Spotify.
Yeah, and
I've listened to that. Love it.
and the full special is me doing stand up, and it's the bit on him comparing his alcoholism to his uncle that has bowel cancer.
Yeah.
And it's just mine's sort of a disease where it's either a searing, blinding pain or a burning, stabbing pain. And he's like, "What about you?" He's like, "I get happy." And he goes, "Sometimes I meet a woman with the same disease and we have sex."
Yes.
That and Dave Chappelle killing him softly are the
Killing
two.
him softly is amazing.
Yeah, probably the two, I think, pinnacles of stand-up comedy. And of course, Carlin Classic Gold, Richard Pryor Live on the Sunset Strip, credits due where it's due, and Rodney Dangerfield. I'm trying to think of the name because he has two older albums, but one, No Respect, I'd probably say is the best one.
Yeah.
But it definitely those two, I think, are the just pinnacles of stand-up comedy.
Yep, they're amazing. And Dave, thank you so much for coming on. This was lots of fun, man.
Thank you for having me. I'll talk to you later.
So once again, he is Dave Landau. He is the host of Normal World on YouTube and BlazeTV. Go on Pluto. I think it's channel 250. If not, just go look up Blaze. Go over to like news and opinions. BlazeTV is on there. Is there a specific time that you guys are on nightly?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10, 9 Central. And you can go to YouTube, BlazeTV, whatever you guys want to watch it on. We do the YouTube thing just to kind of give it to you a little bit for free, but you got to go through ads. So, you can subscribe. You can use code normal20. And also, if you want to check out my comedy special, you can go to Comedy Genius, but it's comedygeni.us. So Comedy Genius. And on there, they have a lot of Ralphie May specials. Some are coming out that haven't been seen. There's a few comics on there. And you can also get 50% off. You just using the code Dave Landau, which you can get it off my special. Or if you want to pay $20, you can get every single special on the site because it's $40, but for $20, you get everything using code Dave Landau.
Very cool. And also definitely go follow him on social media. Instagram, Dave.Landau, and on Twitter, Landau Dave. Just reverse it. So, very funny. You'll laugh at all the things that he puts up, especially on Instagram. They're all freaking hilarious. But as for us, David Quest to you. Do you have anything else to say?
Not really. This is fantastic. I enjoyed every part of it. It's as good as I expected to be, honestly. And that's a line that I would say to most women, honestly, but
Thank you. Well, I am a pretty gal. So-
Pre-diabetic, but no.
Yes, oh, I am. I
So-
am.
So if you like what you heard today, give us a like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 star, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go look us up on the socials. We will be back again next week. I guarantee the show probably won't be as funny, but it'll still be good. But everybody, thanks so much for listening. So long, y'all.